Is it possible to let your chickens free range and still have a garden? Let's get those raised beds protected. Welcome to the Hippie Geeks. Let's dig into this project. Having chickens in your backyard is great. They help keep pests down, they give you fresh eggs, and they are just funny to watch. However, they are also incredibly destructive to a freshly planted raised garden bed. Now, for most raised beds, a simple fence around the outside at a reasonable height will typically keep a chicken out. However, a chicken can jump pretty high, and when motivated and flapping hard, can clear a 6-foot fence. This year, we are going to build support structures over every bed using welded wire cattle panels. The ones we are using are 16 feet long by 50 inches tall, and let me tell you that getting them home is the exciting part. I do not need them to be that long though, so the first thing we are going to do is take the angle grinder and cut them in half. I prefer to do this in the yard. It is by far the easiest place to do so. This garden bed is 8 feet long, which means that I need 2 of the 16-foot cattle panels cut in half. That will give me full coverage with a couple of inches overlap. I like to set them up first just to make sure that it is going to work out. I have a bunch of these 4-foot long pieces of 1x2, which will be perfect to hold the cattle panels in place. I make sure that one of the horizontal bars is about 1/4 of an inch above the top of the raised bed. This is going to be important later. Put a couple of screws into the outside edge of the 1x2, which will hold the top of the panel in place. Next, take a second 1x2 and screw it against the bottom of the panel. Unlike what I do here, don't put screws in on the other side where the 2 panels will meet up. You will need that side to be loose so that you can stack the panels where they overlap. You can see here that I realized my mistake and loosened those screws so that I could get the other panel in place. Make sure that everything is lined up and then put the 1x2 supports up against the second panel as well and screw them into place. Once you have everything secured, head over to the other side of the bed and do the same thing. The other side is much the same. Line up the panels with 1/4 of an inch of space between the horizontal wire and the top of the raised bed, and make sure that the edge of the panel is against the edge of the bed. Each panel on this side gets 2 of the 1x2 sections to secure it in place, and once everything is ready, we can move on to connecting the 4 panel sections together. For this part, you are going to need some baling wire and a pair of pliers. You could use zip ties in a pinch, but the sun will destroy them after a summer and will need to be replaced. Pull the opposite panels together, then use a 3 or 4 inch length of baling wire to wrap the opposing panel wires together. Doing every other one is typically enough, though you can also do every single intersection if you want to be super thorough. I set the camera up at a different angle for the second panel, which makes it a bit easier to see what I am talking about. This is just to keep the sides connected and creates a nice frame that gives the climbing plants tons of places to grab as they grow. Now that the cattle panels are up, it is time to build the frames that will block off the ends of the raised bed. Our raised beds are just over 49 inches wide, so I will cut the bottom of the gate to 49 inches. I want the gate to be about 30 inches tall, so measuring up from the top of the bed to that height, and then measuring how wide the arc of the cattle panel is at that height, will give me the width I need to make the top. The measurement is 34 inches, and as I want it to have to stretch over to hold it in place, I made the top of the gate 36 inches wide. I made the uprights 30 inches long, and as the top is going to be shorter than the bottom, I cut the ends of the uprights at a 15-degree angle. It ended up being too much though, and I should have cut them at 10 degrees, but it ended up working well enough. These gates are being built with extra scraps, so I'm using both 1x2 and 2x2 material. Once everything is cut, find a flat surface to put it all together. Our yard is in the middle of project mode as we get ready for the garden in a couple of weeks, so forgive the mess in the background. I am putting 2 screws into each corner of the gate. Make sure to pre-drill the hole so that you don't split the wood. Once everything is together, it's time for the fun part, working with chicken wire. It can be a real pain to roll out, so be careful as it will cut you pretty easily as it flails around. I use the long edge as a guide and roll the wire out so that it follows along that edge. Staple it in place as you go, making sure to pull on the chicken wire as you do it to keep the tension on it. Once you get the whole long edge stapled, you can cut the roll off so you are only working with the chunk you need. Move over to the opposite side of the gate and pull the chicken wire tight. Start stapling in the middle and work your way out to the edges, again pulling on it to keep it tight. Do the same thing with the two other sides, stapling along every intersection and pulling it taut. Once you have all of the sides stapled, go around and cut off any excess chicken wire with a pair of end clippers. Once it is all done, go around the edge with a hammer and make sure that all of your staples are hammered in flush. Now that you have a gate finished, take it over to the bed for a test fit. Once I set it in place, I will put a screw into the raised bed right behind the bottom of the gate so that it cannot get pushed back into the bed. On the top of the gate edges, I use a saw to cut a V shape into it that the cattle panel wire sits in, holding it in place. Once it looks like everything is going to fit, go ahead and make the second gate for the other side in the same way. Here is the construction from a different angle, though it is using the same process. The second one should go a bit faster as you have already built the first one, and when it is finished, take it over to the raised bed to fit it in as well. Now that they are fit, take them back out and grab your roll of chicken wire again. Set the bottom of the roll on the edge of the bed and roll it across. You want to have a piece longer than the bed itself, with 4 to 6 inches overhang on each end. You then want to cut it along the bed right above the second bar in the panel, which is about 16 inches, which should cut the chicken wire in half. Set the other piece aside as we are going to use it on the other side of the bed. Remember earlier when I said to leave a gap between the top of the raised bed and the horizontal run of welded wire? This is the reason. We are going to take a couple of inches of baling wire every 6 inches or so and tie the bottom of the chicken wire to the cattle panel. Once the bottom is attached, pull the top of the chicken wire up and fold it over the top of the welded wire like you see here. Here we are on the other side now, doing the exact same thing, but from a different angle. Start out with the baling wire along the bottom, followed by stretching it up over the top and wrapping it in. The reason we are doing this is that a chicken can and will jump up into the holes in the welded wire and then into the bed. This way it keeps the chickens out and still lets the plants grow. Once you have the sides secured, go ahead and put your gates back into the ends. Enjoy planting your garden this year, secure in the knowledge that your delicious goodies are safe from those hungry chickens that are running free in your yard. Well, until they learn to jump just a little higher anyways. If this is your first time here on the Hippie Geeks, it would be wonderful to have you subscribe. Hopefully digging into this project with us will help you digging into your projects. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and check out our Patreon page or merch store to support the channel directly. Thanks again, and we will see you on the next one.